Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I have been grinding a ton of different weapons here in MW2 Multiplayer so far, including all the rifles, getting them all maxed out, testing out all of them, seeing which ones are the best of the best. And today we are breaking down which rifles, the top 5 best rifles you want to be using in MW2 Multiplayer right now. I want to start first up here on sim.gg because they actually have all the base weapon stats for all the MW2 weapons. And what's super convenient is we can actually put in all the rifles here with the exception of the M16 because that thing is absolutely garbage. There's no point in having it on the TTK graph. And we can look at all these different guns and see their probable TTK. Now this is just their straight up 100% accurate TTK to every part of the body that we've looked at in the past in Warzone. I'm sure you guys find the graph familiar, but if we scroll down here, we have our average time to kill, which is basically the combination shot TTK and the most accurate way to actually look at these stats. So if we zoom in here, we can see we've got our percentages, obviously with the most being in the chest and torso area and stomach area because that is the largest hitbox we have in game. And we have our various different stats here. So as far as the colors go, our orange line is the Kastov 545, the AK rifle version. We've got the Kastov 762, which is like the heavy hitting AK rifle. We've got the Kastov 74U, which is like the AK-74U rifle SMG hybrid. The Lachmann 556, which is like sort of a Grau-ish, if you will, a Grau type weapon. The M4, of course, the STB 556, which is the rifle version of the AUG, and the TAC 56, aka the SCAR. And when we look at the TTK here, we get some interesting information right away. Something that stands out to me is the Kastov 74U. You can see that through the first 20 meters here or so, this thing has one of the best TTKs in the game, and rightfully so. It's an SMG AR hybrid, if you will, so up close it's got to be good, but then you notice that it falls off so severely over range that it's really not all that competitive past those first 20 meters. So that to me, not really something worth using all that much of. Then we've got obviously 6 guns left. Which one here is going to get tossed out? In my opinion, the clear standout here really is the Kastov 762. Our green line, you can see it's pretty much got the best TTK throughout. This thing is a powerhouse, so it's absolutely one of the better choices in my opinion. The AUG rifle also up there as well. Up close, it's clearly very good, and in the mid-range, it's also very, very solid as well. Through about the first 46 meters, this thing, in my opinion, is feeling very, very strong. I think the Lachmann 556, despite having that slightly slower TTK past 56 meters, is also a great choice just because it is so easy to use. It's one of the lowest recoil options on this entire list, so to me that also is finding a spot in the top 5, as is the Kastov 545. It's kind of the same deal. It also has a really good TTK in the mid-range and over long range. Starts off a little bit slow but then picks up really competitively in that mid-range area, and it has like next to no recoil. It's super easy to use, so that to me is another great choice. And then lastly, I'm going for the M4. It's just nice and consistent, great TTK throughout, which means that unfortunately the SCAR is going to get knocked off here, but in my opinion the top 5: Kastov 545, the Kastov 762, the Lachmann, the M4, and the AUG rifle or the STB. So let's go through and actually break down the best setups for every single one of these rifles. As we're doing that, by the way, if you're new to the channel, around 52% of viewers watching are not subbed, and every single day I got you covered with the latest news, updates, class setups, tips, and all things going on in COD. So we'd love to have you join us on the road to 900,000 subs, trying to hit that before the end of the year. And if you guys enjoy this video or if you find it helpful, be sure to drop a like as well while you're checking it out. Let's try and aim for 3,000 likes on this one. Starting first with the Kastov 545 here, this is probably what I would place in that number 5 spot. Again, super low recoil, pretty good TTK as we just saw. I'd start here first with a decent mid-range optic, whether that's the Chrono Mini Red Dot, whether that's the Chrono Mini Pro Blue Dot here. You can maybe even go for something like the Pro 7. You could go for a VOK 4x. I'm a big fan of the Chrono Mini Red Dot and the Chrono Mini Pro, so back and forth between those is my preference. But as always with the optics, this is entirely based around what you think is the most comfortable for you, what you do the best with. I'm also going to go ahead and throw on a barrel here. We really want to focus on increasing our damage range here the most, and to me there's 2 clear choices here. It's not the 342. 406 is decent, but it doesn't increase your range. It's just velocity and control based. To me, the 406 or the IGK 3406 are the way to go, and in this case this offers better control, better velocity, and better range, so I think this is ultimately your best choice for a barrel. Now I use a laser on a lot of my weapons here, primarily the LAS 44 or the Ole V laser, because they help out with sprint to fire, the ADS speed, and the only con is that there's a laser visible, and I don't think that's a huge deal personally. because the recoil is so easy, I don't need to focus on a muzzle or an underbarrel in my opinion. Instead, I want to go for a stock in this case. So we're mainly looking for something that offers either good mobility or good control. And in this case, we got a couple of options here. I think for mobility based setups, you want to go for the R7 stock, which is better sprint speed, better ADS speed. For control based setups, you probably just want to go for the elite stock in this case, which I think is the go-to. And because we focused on control there, we'll focus on some mobility here for the grip, in which case we'll go for the true tack for the better sprint to fire and the better ADS. So we get a nice balance of range, control, ADS speed. Just in general, this is going to be a really well-rounded rifle. And frankly, here for the STB at the number 4 spot, we're going to go for the same sort of thing. Again, I'm going to go for like a Chrono Mini red dot or whatever optic you're super comfortable with. We've got some different lasers here, but they're all pretty much the same thing. We're going to go for the VLK laser 7 milliwatt here, which is better sprint to fire, better ADS. For the barrels here, you don't necessarily have to run one if you don't want to. The first one here, the Bruin, offers basically like an integral suppressor, if you will, so it's better range, velocity, and that bonus suppressor, which is pretty solid. The FB60 here though is just basic range, velocity, control. This is going to have more cons though, especially when it comes to movement and ADS. It's going to be a lot heavier. Some of these other ones are also decent though. The Gorilla here is one of my favorites. Recoil, control, and better velocity as well, which is pretty solid. They all pretty much are focusing on range and whatnot. So in my opinion, I really like the Bruin 620. It's a 24-inch versus the FB. So this is my go-to, but really any of these are going to be a perfectly fine choice. Again, I'm going to go for a stock in this case. I'm going to go for the 56 though, because this first one doesn't do anything. So we're going to go for the control in the 56 stock. And then you could go for a comb here if you wanted to for the better sprint to fire and ADS. The riser, I think, is a really good choice. And it also only hurts your aim walking speed and your stability and not your, recoil at all, which is really nice. Whereas with a rear grip, if we were to go for the Q900 for sprint to fire and ADS, it would hurt our recoil control. So this to me is super easy to use, and again, nice and consistent in those close and mid-range fights. And with number 3 for the M4 here, I'm still going for a build that has an optic yet again. I just like the look and the feel of it. A lot of players do like the iron sight builds though too, and those are perfectly fine for what it's worth. Here though, we're going for the high tower barrel. This is going to be the largest barrel for the best range, velocity, and control, which is super solid in my opinion. I'm also going to end up going for a stock here as well. Again, you got a couple of options for speed. Ravage is not bad. The Pro stock is not bad either for the better aim walking speed and sprint speed. I feel like a lot of players are going to go for the factory elite here though, for that better control and that better stability, which is nice and consistent. Rear grip here, we're going to end up going for Phantom for the better sprint to speed, better ADS. It hurts the control, but obviously we gain some of that back between high tower and the demo stock. And then lastly, you could very well go for another laser if you wanted to. You could also go for something like an underbarrel in the case of maybe the F-Tac Ripper. You could go for the shark fin if you wanted to for the stability. You could even go for a muzzle if you wanted to as well, with something like the Castle Compensator for better control, better vertical and horizontal patterns there to make it a little bit more consistent. You certainly have some options to mess around with that 5th and final attachment. And frankly, if you didn't want an optic here, I'd probably go for a laser and the compensator, or an underbarrel and the compensator. Now at number 2, we got the Lachmann. Again, I'm going to go for a quick and easy optic here, Chrono Mini red dot in this case. For the barrels here, this thing, like I said, is so easy to use, but it doesn't have the best range compared to some of the other ones, so we really want to focus on that. The Nova in this case is a phenomenal choice, as is the Wrap barrel, as is the Aurora barrel. These are all focusing on range and velocity. You'll notice that the Nova and the 15.9 Wrap are the only ones that help out with control as well. So mainly you want to go for these. In my case, I'm going to go for the Nova here. The cons are not nearly as severe. Again, gonna go for a stock in this case. We got 2 main choices here between mobile and the S9. The S9's cons though are a little bit more harsh, whereas the mobile is still helping out with the ADS and sprint speed, but it's not gonna, destroy your control as much. In this case, I'm gonna rock another laser here for that better ADS speed, and I'll actually end up going for a muzzle in this case as well, just to make this thing an absolute laser beam over range. While it has that slightly slower TTK, you might land more shots with this because the recoil is so good that over range, it's actually gonna have a better realistic TTK when you factor in your accuracy of other weapons. And then lastly, here we got the Kastov 7.62, the powerhouse. And again, we want to go for a barrel that's going to make it great over long range, because that's where this thing thrives. And I think the 584 is the absolute meta choice here. Better range, velocity, and control to the highest degree, whereas some of these other ones are not doing it as much. Maybe for a super mid-range base build, 406 would work, but to maximize its range here and its efficiency there, 584 is the way to go. I'm gonna actually end up using a more long-range optic here. I like the Lone Wolf Hollow. To me, the optic, the reticle is a little bit weird, but it's perfect for mid-range fights. Makes it super easy to stay on target and track players. Really, we're focusing on the strengths here of this thing being a powerhouse over range, so we're not going to focus too much on mobility here. We want control. There's 2 main stocks for that, the Elite stock or the RPK Factory. The Elite's not going to do as much for your control as Factory will. Factory is going to hurt you a little bit more in terms of your cons, but to me, it just makes it so worthwhile over long range. I'm I'm also going to go for a muzzle. In this case, you could use a suppressor that helps out with the range and the velocity if you wanted to, but again, I want to focus on control here, so I'm going to end up running one of these compensators like the Tread 40, which ends up helping with vertical and horizontal control. And then lastly, you certainly got some choices. You could go for a rear grip, maybe for some ADS speed to make this a little bit more aggressive and not all focused on recoil. You could go for a laser for more of the same if you wanted to. You could go for an underbarrel if you wanted to. Plenty of choices there for your fifth and final attachment. Definitely mess around and see what works the best for you. But that being said, those are the top 5 rifles and rifle setups here in MW2 right now, in my opinion, and that's gonna wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated, as it does really help grow the channel. And if you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications. That way you can always guarantee you are up to date with the news, updates, class setups, and all tips for MW2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.